So I have visited over 150 recording studios, home studios, barn studios, bedroom, closet studios. Some of them were amazing and some of them were trash. But everyone that I have visited has had some sort of nugget that I have blatantly stolen and implemented into my own workflow in my own studio. And I wanted to summarize them and share them with you in this video. We're gonna go through some things that I've failed miserably at, and then we're also going to touch on things that I have learned from those failures, and hopefully it's just a value jam-packed video. And no, this is not a studio tour, but it's gonna feel a little bit like one, so let's get into it. First things first, you gotta get your own custom merch. I'm not shilling merch here yet because I'm not ready, but you gotta make your own jokes to have in the studio that you can hand out to folks. So we've got Pretengineer here, obviously. And then, you know, that was a brand deal. I had to. I saw this, it's cool. Okay, so here's one that's impromptu, not on the list, bonus one. And this is a terrible version of it. But drum closet, this is in the works. Whenever I do a real studio tour, this will be so much cooler. But the secret to getting great drum sounds is having a lot of drums that all sound different and are all ready to go. So you can just grab the one that sounds that way. Obviously, it's expensive, but so is recording, so is music, so is guitars, so is speakers, so is everything else. And I'm a drummer, so if I wanna get the big sound, you get the big drum. If you wanna get the tight, punchy one, you use the one that's in there. Anyway, there's a lot more drums in the drum room. But the storage, Jake Reed, shout out. He's got some great organization stuff. We have a tour with him coming out soon. This is gonna be that in the future. Having a place where you can go grab them is huge. All right, so now we are in the control room here, and there are so many nuggets that I have stolen in this room. This is essentially where I spend most of my time. I think we can all agree. We'll start with an easy one. The first one is this guitar wall here. And this thing is one of the more fun show and tell when you have people come over, especially guitar players, but it's also great for just practical use on sessions for songwriting or whatever. And I've done this little party trick before, but essentially if you have a variety of amps, you connect them to a switcher. Now I have all the amps and the switcher on one power conditioner. So we flip this on and essentially you have one instrument cable down here, plug your guitar in, got a pedal board ready to go. These pedals pretty much work for everything. Drawer full of pedals down here, a lot of pedals. All of these are just set so that you can just press one button and flip between the different amps that are on here and hear them immediately. The first output, you have 4 different outputs, goes to this aux box, and the aux box normals to my speakers. So we can hear the guitar come out of the speakers as soon as you turn this thing on and you pick an amp. Now the next cool thing is the second output actually goes to an entirely different room out of a cabinet that is mic'd up. That also comes out of the speakers. So guitar player comes in. If you have 2 guitar players, it's not as cool. But if we have 1 guitar player, you can plug in and you have your choice and it's great. And then the other part of this guitar wall is this Supro here. This is the Blackmagic Reverb TB, Tyler Bryant edition. This amp is so fun to use that I just keep it as a standalone here as a control room amp. And this is just for writing and having fun and just having a loud amp in the room because it sounds so good. And there's something about just having a little combo in the room with you that is just like more fun. But when we do actual records or mixing and doing reamping, this amp wall is incredible. By the way, on the reamping tip, I've got a little reamp box here from Franklin. Shout out Franklin. If you know them, then you know them, they're great. This is a studio reamp box, and it's got the input right here, output on the top. You actually have input and output level controls on this, and then obviously a ground and phase button. And my reamp signal comes out here, and then I can just plug it right into the pedal board. So if I'm doing a mix for you and you have DI guitars, it's honestly the best because you can just pipe that right out of an output and it goes out of the cab and I can remic it and do like a good job. Get it on some good pre's. All right, so number 2, this is a miniature version of it, but these are just sort of the only 2 synths that I have here in the studio. The way that it works in here normally is that these synths hit this switcher. This is starting to look like a Franklin hat, but this is the Franklin SS6 switcher. I got this from 108 recording studios, actually here in Gallatin, Tennessee. Gideon and Gabe had this Franklin switcher where you can just run all of your different synths. They had a lot more than me, to the inputs of this switcher. Come take a look at this thing. You get 6 different stereo inputs to the back. You get your throughs and then your DI. So you basically have one stereo DI for 6 different synthesizers, and you can just switch through depending on which one you want to hear. And that way you're only using 2 inputs for all of your synths. And it's the same, you just make a template, or if you want to not have a template and you want to create a track or whatever, it's the same 2 inputs for whatever synths you want. The next one is we'll call it a nugget, but this is really like a principle of Nashville studios. When I moved to Nashville, this was like everyone does this here, because it's like a working town of sessions, which is everything is on and everything is ready and everything is just set to go and it works and it's fast. So the everything on workflow I have embraced and implemented in the studio in such a insane way, where we have essentially 24 channels, drums, amps, aux box, bass, synth, keys, the everything mic, which is usually set up right here, piano in the room. Everything is on and ready to go so that you touch something, not only can you hear it out of the speakers, but you can also hear it on your headphone mixers, no matter where. If you're in here or you're in the other rooms, you put on headphones, you play your instrument, you can hear it coming right out of the headphones. Same thing with drums. Everything is always on and always has sounds and levels and is just essentially ready to make a record. That way you can focus on the thing that matters more than any of the gear, which is the song and the part. Right, Cole? Yeah. One thing about the everything on setup that really helps is having a lot of conversion, a lot of I/O, right? Because if you have 12 mics on drums, 10 mics, whatever, and then you have keys and then guitars and bass and vocals and all this stuff, you need a lot of inputs. So having a converter or an interface that has a lot of inputs is going to really help you. I'm using the Galaxy 32 to accomplish this. I got this idea from a friend of mine, Fady Gergis, who is in Kansas City. A bunch of my friends in Kansas City are all on Antelope. Zane, shout out Zane and Jared, both tried to get me on Antelope early. I was on the Universal Audio Apollo and I had some frustrations with that workflow because I wanted to use my outboard gear, and it was a real pain in the butt, and then headphone mixers and all this stuff. And then basically Zane was like, call Fady. And Fady was like, yeah, you can do all this. You should get the Galaxy 32. We talked forever and he was basically my teacher and explained everything to me, and it has since blown my mind. So I got this Galaxy 32 and then I expanded it with another 32 channel converter, which from Ferrofish. It's called the Ferrofish 832. So there's 64 I/O. I'm getting to the next nugget, which is the hardware insert hybrid mixing workflow. So get this. We have 32 channels of inputs for recording. The first 32, Galaxy 32, all outboard mic pre's hitting microphones and inputs, right? They're just always set 1 through 32 inputs, always the same tracks, given that we don't do strings in one day and add a couple or something like that. And then the second 32 are for over here. This is the hybrid mixing area with all the outboard gear. Now this is all patched as hardware inserts permanently, which basically means in Pro Tools or Logic, you can go to your vocal track and insert this compressor, and then you can insert this compressor on the vocal and you just hear it. There's no latency, there's no delay, there's no nonsense. It just, you hear it and you go, wow, that sounds so much better. That was so easy. I love life. So that's what this hybrid mixing thing is. The other part of it is I am still mixing in the DAW, which means the session saves my automation, which I do on this controller right here. This is the SSL UF8 and UF1, and I can use my little transport. I can move my keyboard out of the way and I can get in my feeling brain, as Jeff Ellis calls it, the feeling side of my brain, not the visual side of the brain, and make mixing decisions with my fingers and with my feelings, which is a far more effective way to mix. But because of the interface and this always on hybrid mixing thing, I can now actually utilize all this stuff. So all of this has been a big game changer for the ability to be super ADHD and go like, hey, we're writing a song. Hey, we're recording a song. Hey, I gotta finish this mix. Oh wait, now I gotta jump to this other mix. Wait, I gotta do a drum session. It's when you're doing a lot of different types of work in one day. This setup allows you to jump between all of those different things. Next thing, Triad Orbit stands. Now this is just a blatant product shout out here. Fun story about this. They hit me up a while back about doing a partnership with me. And I was like reluctant to do it because they actually had a very not successful past with their products. But they challenged me to basically let them come over and put their stands in any possible scenario to make them fail. So we did that and it worked out. And then I learned more about their products and have become a giant shill. I love them so much. If you look around, all these lights are clamped on with these Triad Orbit clamps because every stand and every clamp and every mount is modular, so you can swap them between stands, lights, cameras, microphones, and it all just works so beautifully. Look at this stand. This is what we have our light in this control room on. This is a microphone stand, and I put this big old light on it, and it's on these big casters, so you can just roll it around. So just imagine a U47 on here. Imagine I have a U47 and I can roll it around nice and easily. Very strong stands. It's actually surprising because whatever they're made out of is like a lightweight kind of metal, but it's extremely heavy stand and very easy to use. So I have them everywhere that I can afford to have them around the studio, and they are extremely useful. So the Triad Orbit, you'll see them as we walk through the rest of this place because super beneficial. So this next one is not something that I have learned from someone else's studio. This was a brand deal as well that I got that I have now become just obsessed with. Also, studio fridge, very important. Gotta have tasty drinks for the clients, people coming into the studio so they can be refreshed. And then you gotta have your Magic Mind, all right? Now we've got two different types of Magic Mind here. The one that's empty, as you can see, I am ready for some more of. We have only two left, this is so sad. So this thing is basically a mental performance shot. It's got incredible ingredients. It's too small. That's my one gripe. They are incredibly delicious, very good for your body. For mental performance, they've got lion's mane, ashwagandha, matcha, L-theanine, turmeric, vitamin B2, B3, B12, C, and D, all kinds of stuff. But the point is, I'm addicted to this stuff and it gets me into a state where I feel like ultra focused. You can actually put this in another drink as well. They're doing a January special sale right now. January is almost over, so if you missed it, sorry. But if it's still January, you can get a discount with my code down in the description. It's a 45% off. You can get a subscription for these things and just keep them freshly stocked in the studio. When you need to keep your focus in the studio, you gotta have something healthy to go to that's not sugar poison. Okay, so this is the drum room here in the studio. Lots of lessons have been learned in this room and lots of tips we will get. So the main thing in this room that everyone asks about, this is a very big nugget, which is this side rig over here. I'm trying to come up with a cool name for it right now and I don't really have one. Side rig is option one. You can vote in the comments. I like remote control because it reminds me of the 90s. Shout out, Cole. Yeah, this is just the control room computer, the whole studio. So I can sit at the drums. Drummers who have studios and are doing sessions like need to control the computer. Oh my gosh, look, it's Sweetwater. What a coincidence. Bro, I'm on Sweetwater every single day. We've got the monitor here to control and see what's going on the session. Bluetooth mouse and keyboard, which connect to this little IP extender right here. So this basically connects the computer in the other side of the studio to this little area over Ethernet. And it's got 3 USBs in the front, so I can connect these little dongles for my keyboard and mouse. And then it has an HDMI out, so I can have my display here. But this is a huge value add when you're doing sessions and you just need to punch, you know, or drop in for something or monitor something like that. I can also adjust my headphone mix on the headphone mixer. And since my drums are stereo on the box, I can go in and solo things while I'm sitting here at the kit. I think this was like a combination of a few different studios I visited and kind of stole their concept. I think they had like weaker versions and this was just sort of like, all right, this solves for everything. All right, and then the next nugget after the side rig is right above us. And this is a brand new addition to the studio. This overhead, I don't have a name for it. It's a pipe that we built for the drum room. It allows me to do grip clamps and attach boom arms so that we can boom microphones any different way we want for headphones. We can go super wide, we can go mono, we can go really high up, look at that. We can go all the way to the ceiling, or we can go really low. Again, Triad Orbit. These boom arms, this is like the heaviest mic I have outside of this one, and they hold up great. Should we test? Someone said, let's see you put a 44 ribbon up there. Should we test it and just see if it can hold since I'm talking all this smack? So this is truly the heaviest mic in the entire studio. AEA 44 ribbon. So yeah, I mean, this is somewhat of a dangerous test, so let's definitely film it. So we got the grip clamp up here from Triad, and then we got the boom arm. So we're gonna go ahead and just, look at that, okay. Wow, I don't know if this is gonna hold, guys. Doesn't seem very strong. Oh, wait. Wow, effortlessly. Look at that, boom. All right, let's extend it. Can't even tug on this thing. That's pretty good, dude. The fact that you can hang this is crazy. It's not going anywhere. That actually makes me want to record some 44s and overheads. So anyway, if you're curious on how we made this thing, we made a full video showing how we took the whole room apart, what we bought, how we put it together, and installed this whole thing. Obviously, you can see how it works. It rules. While we're in this drum room, I do want to point something out. I do like studio consultations for a lot of people who are about to set up their own studio, and they have a lot of questions about all these things we're talking about. But one thing that people are very concerned about is acoustics, and for good reason. Studio acoustics really, really matter. However, you can go too far with the acoustics. My general advice is based on my experience, and my experience is like very broad all over the place, from super treated acoustic commercial studios with everything you can dream of, and the control rooms like kind of like they're not right, you know, but because it's all built in and it's all permanent, you're kind of screwed. I worked with a guy here in Nashville, Graham, who has a company called Music City Acoustics. So you see everything that's on the walls in here. This is sort of like the DIY acoustic treatment that you might do for a home studio. These are just 2 foot by 4 foot absorption panels. They're a little bit deeper, which matters, but they're all set up on these hooks. Look at that. So you can literally just put this whole room together very easily, very affordably. And I can tell you, on the performance tracking side, it had the biggest transformation ever in this room just by doing simple absorption panels. Some of them have these scattered diffusers on the front of them, but these are super cool. You literally just take them off, you can move them around and sort of experiment with what sounds better for what you're trying to do. And then we have thinner ones up on the ceiling. This whole tracking room, what's in here maybe came to somewhere around $4 grand. I did a video on the whole acoustic thing with Music City Acoustics, but it has all the numbers and details in it. But my point that I want to give you is what I have learned is it matters, but don't get lost in the rabbit hole of acoustic treatment and needing to have 6 feet of bass trapping and have all like sealed everything. Like, we are in a bedroom in a house. There is no soundproofing. I can hear the producer upstairs, but you know what? That's normal. That's normal life. You gotta be able to deal with what's there and work with it. As far as the tracking room is concerned, this is really all you need. Some good rugs, a bunch of cool stuff in here that actually sounds good, because at the end of the day, the thing that's gonna make the most difference is the skills that you have to be able to work with what's here. So the skills, as in knowing what you're doing, recording and capturing, and working with musicians who know what they're doing with the actual instrument, and then getting the right part for the song. That's what really matters. So if you're getting acoustic treatment, what I have learned, start with the least amount that you can. And if you need more, add more. With that being said, let's look at the acoustic treatment in the control room, because it's also very sparse. So this isn't the control room. This is the other tracking room, but you can see the acoustic treatment in here is basically the same thing. I made these. These are worse than the ones that Music City Acoustics made, but this room sounds cool. This is, again, is a bedroom. It's square, it's a box, big drywall ceiling. But this is one of the panels that Graham made, and it's got this pegboard on one side and absorption on the other. So we'll put acoustic guitars or cello, bass, whatever, something over here that we can control a little bit. And it actually sounds really cool. This is currently we're using on a room mic in here. I literally put room mics in this booth to capture what this room sounds like. So that should tell you you don't need to spend an insane amount of money on acoustic treatment. Now, with that being said, the acoustic treatment that really does matter in the control room, first, reflection points and clouds. I mean, that's basically the most legit treatment in here, is these huge clouds. Rugs on the floor made a big difference. Even this is like a $150 rug from Sweetwater. By the way, good deal. I've got a bunch of these around the studio because that's like 150 bucks for a pretend Persian drum rug, really is what it is. We've got this panel here, that one there. These little corner things, which are literally just standing still, they move around. It's like not even permanent, but the semi-permanence of it allows me to be flexible for what we're trying to do in that moment, because not every single moment of the day is making final mix decisions. And when those other times of day are happening, I don't want my room to feel cut off and choked out by the acoustic treatment. So really basic stuff. Stick to the basic principles of acoustic treatment, save your money, get better at your skills, and write a better song. Okay, the next thing that I wanna share with you, this is a nugget that I learned just from working. Sometimes you just learn this works and this doesn't work during the day, and then you adjust for that. I did a video on this concept that I stupidly named the everything mic, which is basically every producer who keeps a mic right next to them, right? It's the everything mic. It's there, it's on, it's ready. That concept of it's on and ready is more important than kind of anything else in the studio. And because I usually keep a mic right here for that, usually it's for vocals, and we'll cut with the vocalist right next to me, or I'll cut vocals literally sitting at the desk. Something that I like to be able to do is to try different mics on a voice before we go through and decide, like, you know, I don't think that mic was right for you. But if the mics are kept on the other side of the studio, you're infinitely less likely to actually swap it. If it takes more than just a little bit of time to do it, especially if it's a tube mic, you're just so much less likely to actually do it. So we took advantage of this being a bedroom and having a walk-in closet and turned this whole room into a microphone closet. And I just keep on this top shelf here go-tos that we'll grab. 251 right here from Warm Audio. This is seemingly the one that translates the best with my voice and a couple other people's voice. Soyuz 17 tube. This guy is this is like the exact opposite sound of that. Big, thick, darker sounding tube. Eden Soyuz 17, one of my favorites. 17 FET. It's like a little bit of a brighter version of this one. A Mojave MA300, all good ones. But the fact that they're right here and they've got the Triad clip right in them, you can grab it, pop it in, plug in the cable, and just immediately hear what it sounds like. And because it's so easy to grab, they're not put away in cases, they're not on the other side of the studio, that immediacy means that I'm actually gonna try it, we're gonna have time, and we're not gonna get bored and lose the mojo that we have. So that's one that I learned just from trial and error. Now this last one is more of like a, you know, you learn this and you do it whenever you're able to do it, which are these speaker stands. Speaker stands are kind of like cables. They're extremely unexciting to buy, and you kind of just want to get away with not buying them if you can and just use whatever works. But when you hear your speakers on good speaker stands positioned in the right way, it completely changes your experience working, which completely changes how much time you spend working and what that time and experience is like. These were that for me. These are the Sound Anchor ADJ2s. They're expensive. They're like 1,400 bucks. They're huge. They're made out of steel, powder coated. They're filled with sand. They're heavy as sin. Probably impossible to break. These speakers are super heavy, and I have this dumb light on here, but they make no noise. They're completely decoupled from the floor, and the speakers are never gonna fall off here. Actually, I have attachments to connect them to these speakers specifically, but these Sound Anchors totally transformed what my listening experience sounded like from when I had focals as my speakers before. I had the focals on cheaper stands, which was also super dangerous, but it actually made the speakers sound like different speakers when I got them, and that's all sorts of feelings when that happens. Okay, last thing here, this is more about creating a special place, which we are still trying to do, but I have gotten so much inspiration from other tours that I've done, and I want to do more of that here in my studio, so we're slowly starting to do that, but I want to be tasteful with those choices. So as you can see, I have taped, printed out photos to my freaking acoustic panel here. But I just got some picture frames and we're gonna frame up some photos of some special moments from in the studio and outside of the studio around this place. In addition to, we'll probably have some records. Maybe we'll do that at some point. But outside of like that kind of stuff, nice art, fun things, little sayings, we started hanging Post-it notes on the fridge of like artists that we're working with here in the studio and projects we're working on that we complete. It's sort of like ongoing projects are over here on this little board. This is like a huge, really beneficial thing for me because my brain is so easily distracted. I need this guy and this guy to help keep me focused. And this sort of is a reminder of all of the crap that we're working on. So having stuff like that around sort of reminds you like, what am I here to do? What's going on? By the way, I did a full extensive video, 10 things that are not audio related for the studio. We kind of went through this. This is the candle. This is my favorite. This is a Target special. A Room Essentials. It's my favorite flavor here. Oh, it's all poison, by the way, but yeah, that's my favorite version of it. So anyway, I hope this gave you some value. These are all things that I have learned either from other people or just from failing at it miserably in my own work experience and then like fixing it and resolving it. Let us know what you think down below. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for Magic Mind for sponsoring this studio and sending that pack, which is so good. I need to get more. I'm gonna probably take advantage of this sale as well. If you wanna sign up for the Magic Mind, get the discount before the end of January with the link in the description. It's right here on the screen. Go to this link and get yourself some Magic Mind. You'll be very grateful. It is awesome. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching and we'll see you in the next one.